UFC Vegas 93. This is the weigh-in recap show, full card predictions, and the betting breakdown. I'm looking forward to talking about each of the matchups on this card after seeing the fighters on the scales. So make sure you guys smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Turn the post notifications on and make sure you share the video as well. And also note, I'm going to be live for the entire card Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Don't miss the fight companion. First thing we have to talk about is a double fight cancellation. Yesterday, we lost the co-main event, which was Ikram Aliaskarov versus Antonio Tricoli. Aliaskarov fighting at UFC Saudi Arabia in the main event now against Robert Whittaker. So congrats to him on getting a huge opportunity. But today, we had another cancellation. Tagir Ulanbekov came in at 129.5 pounds for his flyweight fight against Joshua Van. He is unfit to fight. It's canceled. Ulanbekov needs to move up in weight, and Joshua Van might be the most unlucky guy in the game. Consistent fight cancellations for him. I'm hoping that we can get him in the cage sometime this summer. I think he needs a quick rebook, and I think you might as well add him to UFC 303 because he's going to be ready to go, and I think he deserves a big opportunity, being willing to take on like all comers. But yeah, Ulanbekov, Van, fight is off. I know Van was a lot of people's underdog this week. Unfortunately, not going to get the chance to find out. Let's get into the first fight on the card. Julia Polastri versus Josephine Knutsson. I've been picking Josephine Knutsson throughout the entire week. I do believe she is technically superior as well as the significantly more coordinated and more athletic fighter. I think she's going to technically pick apart Polastri. I think she'll get some control time in the clinch. I think she'll outstrike her from range. And I think she's going to get it done on the judges' scorecards, 30-27. Knutsson is a proven round winner, nowhere near a finisher. Polastri's a tough girl, scrappy for sure, does have a decent skill set overall, but I just think Josephine Knutsson's going to be too much for her. And I see a physicality edge as well for the side of Knutsson. Now, we're going to look at the scales, see how these ladies looked. Both girls on weight without issue. There's Polastri. She looks in great shape. She looks really good. I give credit where it's due. She looks ready to rock. There's Josephine Knutsson as well, very physically fit. Both these girls are looking to make a splash. You know, it's Knutsson's second UFC fight. For Polastri, there's her first fight after that Contender Series win. And then there's the face-off. Nothing about the scales is changing my mentality. Nothing about the scales has me thinking anything different. I feel like we're going all 3 rounds and we're going to see Knutsson by decision. Polastri plus 150 as the dog. Knutsson is the minus 175 favorite. As far as the prop betting / over-unders, the over 2.5 rounds is minus 425. It's extraordinarily likely that we go distance here, so I do think that will end up hitting. It's just very chalky. And then looking at Knutsson by decision, minus 135, but if you can find it more like minus 116, more near even money, I understand it. I do think that Knutsson is the better technical fighter than Julia Polastri, and that's why I'm picking her to win here. I think she controls in the clinch, especially at the apex. She's going to back her up a bit. If we're kickboxing, I think Knutsson's going to be pretty smooth on the feet with Polastri. Polastri can scrap for sure. She gets a little wild, though, and I think Knutsson more technically sound. 30-27, Josephine Knutsson for the W. Let's keep running up. Next fight on the card, we have Shailan Nuerdanbieke versus Melquizio Costa. I'm excited as hell for this fight. I won't lie to you guys. I think this is actually going to be a pretty damn good one. I am picking Shailan Nuerdanbieke. I believe he has the better boxing skills. He also is more of a physically imposing threat in the wrestling department. Melquizio Costa has solid Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but I can see Shailan Nuerdanbieke smothering from top position and Costa not being able to offer much from the bottom as far as threatening submission attempts. And then as far as the striking, Melquizio Costa would have to technically pick apart Shailan Nuerdanbieke. If they get in the close range, more in the boxing realm, that is where Nuerdanbieke has a legitimate chance to hurt Costa. I do think Nuerdanbieke can land a knockdown. I think he could potentially get a knockout, but ultimately he's an underdog, the money line side. If you are betting it, would probably be the A side as opposed to trying to prop chase a knockout. But we'll look at the odds momentarily. We got to see them on the scales. How do they look? Shailan Nuerdanbieke is in tremendous shape for this fight, and I am pretty confident he pulls through. Both guys are victims of Steve Garcia, but Nuerdanbieke was more impressive. I'll be honest, Melquizio Costa looks terrifying here. Like, he looks like somebody from fucking Gotham City, some type of creepy villain. Holy shit. And then as far as the face-off, you know, forehead to forehead, the intensity was there. Look at the muscle density. I know physiques don't necessarily matter, but in the grappling department, bigger muscle normally means stronger muscle. And I believe Nuerdanbieke is a significantly stronger grappler than Costa, and I can see him garnering a lot of control time in this fight. So I am going Nuerdanbieke to win. He's a plus 165 underdog. So you really, if you are betting on this one, don't have to go crazy trying to chase a prop. It's minus 190 for Costa. Now, I think Costa could get stunned, hurt, dropped, and stopped in this fight, but it wouldn't be crazy if Nuerdanbieke grinded out a decision win. Nuerdanbieke by decision sits at plus 275, whereas knockout is upwards of plus 700. Holy hell. So it's like unexpected for him to get a knockout. He's got a bit of sting, though. He could hurt Costa, but I definitely could see him hurting him and then smothering him and then just winning the fight by decision still. So I understand why the decision side is plus 275, and then we're looking at the knockout side being, you know, quite a bit larger. But ultimately, if you are thinking about throwing down on my underdog call here and you're feeling the same way, plus 165 straight down the middle, not worrying about method of victory is definitely the best bet. So we're going Nuerdanbieke. He wins the second fight on the card. I think he's beaten Costa. I don't think Costa will be able to stop some big shots from landing, potentially takedowns too. And I think Nuerdanbieke is a super live dog in this fight. Next fight on the card, we have Jeka Saragih versus Westin Wilson. I am going Jeka Saragih to absolutely devastatingly finish Westin Wilson. I don't really think this is going to be all that much of a competitive fight. I think he's probably going to brutally dust him in a round or so. Like, this is going to be beat down central. This is going to be shit on city. Like, I really think that he's going to absolutely devastate him. Had to block that ad they had there. Weird. It was like a blank ad that Topology had running at the top. Jeka Saragih, first round KOs, very live. Westin Wilson, this is a harsh reality. He's not UFC level, and that's the truth. He's got 2 straight losses in the UFC, albeit the competition isn't bad. Joanderson Brito's a savage, and so is Gene Silva. But Jeka Saragih is pretty savage with his striking too, and I think he's going to absolutely rock Westin Wilson with big shots. I'm going Saragih by knockout win. I just couldn't, you know, go underdog side on Wilson just because he just doesn't seem to have not only the technical tools, but like the physical tools. Saragih's just superior, I believe. There's Westin Wilson. He's a tall guy for the damn featherweight division, very skinny. I'm telling you, he's Wonder Boy's great value brand. You know what I'm saying? He's the little brother to Wonder Boy. Saragih looks funny as hell, man. I just feel like Saragih's a fucking hoot. Look at the flex. When these guys were facing off, it was one of the weirdest face-offs of all time. Like, I could see these guys together smoking some fucking pot and watching anime with one another. That's the vibe I get from both of them. So, I don't know, maybe a blossoming friendship when this is all done, but it's going to first have Saragih catching Wilson's chin and flatlining him. I'm going Saragih by KO. Unless Westin Wilson goes out and gets a, you know, UFC win and shows some skills, I just can't have faith. Minus 350, Saragih, Wilson plus 285. Expect a violent fight between these two. And my brain has been saying under is pretty damn likely. Under 1.5 is minus 285, so shit value. Under 2.5 is minus 600. There's nothing you can really do with that. But I do think this fight ends inside of the distance with a violent finish. And I think it's probably Saragih by KO. But even the money KO call is minus 200. So if you're looking at Saragih to win maybe by first round knockout, you can't even get plus money there. It's minus 125. So ultimately, Jeka Saragih is like a pretty confident call as far as the picks go. He's got legit KO power. He knocked out Lucas Alexander in his UFC win, and he's a pretty decent guy on the come up. Westin Wilson should be levels below. He's just a very chalky line. Ultimately, though, the confidence high, regardless of the betting lines. We're going Jeka Saragih to win via KO. Let's keep running up the card. Let's get to our next fight on the card. We have Carli Judice versus Gabriela Fernandes. I'm picking the side of Carli Judice as an underdog for a couple of reasons. First and foremost is women's MMA doesn't normally make a lot of sense. And, favorite sweeping the board with women's fights is just unlikely. Last card, it was all women's underdogs winning. But it's also that Judice has similarities to Holly Holm. I think she has high potential. Gabriela Fernandes has a seemingly powerful Muay Thai style, but she is a little up tall and stiff. She does kind of slap her hooks a little bit. I think Judice could potentially sting up Fernandes on the feet. I don't think Fernandes is stunning Judice and flatline KOing her. I think her and Judice could mix it up. But I'll tell you this, even though Gabriela Fernandes, you can say, oh, good competition in her losses with Bleda, who's a good wrestler, and Jazz Davicius, who's a good wrestler, I think Carli Judice could also take her down. Fernandes seems to lack grappling skill, and I know Judice is not necessarily known as a wrestler, but her competency with the stand-up could lead to more openings in the grappling positions as well. So I'm going with Judice to win. I think she pulls through. She's a big dog in this fight here. And I don't think Gabriela Fernandes should be a, minus 200 favorite against anybody inside of the UFC. This Gabriela Fernandes with the flex, good shape for her there. Judice got damn skinny arms, man. Holy hell, about the size of my wrist. That's kind of crazy, but she does got skills. She reminds me a little bit of Holly Holm. I see similarities. There's the face-off. You can see Judice a little bit taller. I think that's a good advantage for Judice to have with the striking. She's still developing, only 3-1. Fernandes, more experience at 8-3, but I do think Judice could outdog her and win a gritty decision. I know I've heard some people call knockout. I mean, maybe Fernandes being a little up tall gets caught with a stiff one. A lot of money has come in on Judice because initially she was upwards of plus 220 earlier this week. She's now sitting just at plus 140. This is a more sensible betting line for this fight. Minus 160 for the side of Fernandes. Now looking at the over rounds, I'm not interested in it, but I'll read it off. Minus 215. Judice to win by a decision. Again, not really feeling it. Plus 185. Judice by KO. Plus 850 if you're looking just to throw down a savage call. But you guys know the truth. A lot of these women's fights going long, but both these ladies do like to strike. Judice coming off of that excellent war with Ernesto Carrasqueta, where she ended up losing a split decision, but she still got signed to the UFC, and that fight was fucking bananas. Holy shit. One of the best Contender Series fights ever, if not the best ever. So I do think Judice can come in and get a win over Gabby Fernandes. We're going with Carli Judice, crispy Carli, who gives me Holly Holm vibes, to pull through against Gabriela Fernandes as a dog this week. Let's keep running. Our next fight on the card, I believe this is now the new featured prelim of the night. It is Nate Maness versus Jimmy Flick in what should be an absolute squash match. Nate Maness should destroy Jimmy Flick in a matter of 5 minutes or less. I'm predicting Nate Maness by first round knockout. Of course, he could take his time, pick his shots, and get a KO later. Simply, Jimmy Flick has no chance in the striking. He doesn't have the wrestling to give me significant worry for the side of Nate Maness on the ground. And though Flick has decent jiu-jitsu, he's not quick with his transitions at all. I really think Nate Maness is going to kind of punch a hole through his face. Nate Maness is going to viciously knock out Jimmy Flick. This is going to be a destructive win for him. He's got the frame advantage too, being taller and longer. He's way slicker in the stand-up. He's just way more primed. Jimmy Flick retired from the game and then has come back looking worse than ever before. I think Nate Maness is going to absolutely destroy him. This is a complete mismatch. And also note something, guys. Nate Maness's 2 UFC losses are against Dagestan fighters, Tagir Ulanbekov, Umar Nurmagomedov. How can you really shame him? I know Tagir missed weight today, but still, in cage performances, Tagir's no slouch. I'm going with Nate Maness. Destructive win. High confidence pick. I'd be shocked if he loses. Genuine shock if he loses this fight. There is Nate on the scale. Looks ripped and ready to go. Jimmy Flick looks kind of like a homeless doppelganger of Nate Maness, to be honest, man. I'm giving Flick a hard roast, man. He seems like a nice guy, though. I'm not trying to hate on Jimmy Flick too hard. I picked Jimmy Flick over Malcolm Gordon, so don't think I've consistently doubted Jimmy Flick. I've made some good calls with Jimmy Flick in the past. It's just Nate Maness is a different level of fighter than him. He's way more well-rounded. He has way more power. He's way slicker. He's going to destroy him. Nate Maness was a big dog against Mendonça last fight out, and he destroyed him in a round. I think he's destroying Flick in a round as well. So Nate Maness, high caliber confidence. Holy shit. He's a lock. Minus 600, though. The odds agree. Plus 425 for Flick. This is beatdown central, one-way traffic, ass whoopville. Nate Maness by first round knockout is the official call. Ultimately, him just by knockout is also a money call. We're most likely going under 1.5, which is minus 175. And then looking at Maness to win via KO, it's minus 235. You get no love on it. Minus 300 for decision, or excuse me, wins inside distance. If he somehow won a decision, it's plus 600, but I think he finishes. What's first round Maness? Plus 115. Maness first round KO is plus 135. I think he's real live for the first round knockout. It's the official prediction. He's a really wide money line. Maness, unfortunately, guys, is something that you probably just have to parlay, but there are some really confident calls that I think can make for nice parlays on this card, and I'm looking forward to parlaying up some magic once we get to the parlay section at the end. So stay tuned. Nate Maness to win here. Destructive victory. Not a close fight. Let's jump to our main card opener. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash the likes. And if you're new to the channel, subscribe. We got Adam Fugitt versus Josh Quinlan. I'm going to pick Josh Quinlan to win by KO. I really think Fugitt leaves his head out to be cracked. He got dropped badly by Mike Malott and then subbed up. I think Josh Quinlan can finally get a win here, man. I know he's lost 2 straight ever since he got off the steroids. He hasn't looked the same. But I feel like if there's a guy that falls into the Josh Quinlan style where he can land big shots, it's Fugitt. And I know some people will look at statistics and say, wait, look at the reach advantage of 5 inches. Let me tell you this. Adam Fugitt, though he has long arms, is not a guy that technically picks people apart from the outside. The last 2 opponents of Josh Quinlan have been exactly that. They have been range fighting maestros. Danny Barlow, who's a tremendous prospect, and Trey Waters, who's pretty decent. Adam Fugitt fights more to the style where Quinlan's going to be able to land some big shots. And regardless of the losses, regardless of him hopping off the steroids, he still's got punching power. I'm going with Josh Quinlan. I'm going with KO. I think he can sleep Adam Fugitt in this fight. As far as the scales, let's see. We're going to look at them. Does anything change? There's Josh Van. Don't disappoint me by seeing this. Taira Ulanbekov, get off my damn screen. Adam Fugitt, he looked decent. I'll tell you this picture makes him look better. When I watched the weigh-in highlights, he looked like pretty exhausted and drained out from the UFC camera angle. And then Josh Quinlan looks pretty good and ready to go. He's off the sauce, but he's retained most of the muscle mass, dude. Looks absolutely stacked. I don't know if you saw the left. Maybe he made a phone call to his guy and they got him back on, maybe the half dosage or something like that. Either way, I think Josh Quinlan is starching Fugitt, man. Fugitt looked tired at the weigh-ins. He looked off. Something didn't feel right. I think Quinlan by KO is so live here in this fight. I'm going Josh Quinlan by knockout. Now, I'm not going to ever confidently pick Josh Quinlan, at least until he gets some wins together, but I am officially picking him. He's not a wide favorite. He's minus 120, essentially even line here to Fugitt at plus 100. And then Quinlan to win via KO here is sitting at, let's see, plus 140, I think he gets a knockout. It is slight plus money. I think it's live. If Quinlan is to win, I think it's KO or bust. I think this fight's ending inside of the distance. Fight going under 2.5 is what? Minus 135. Fight going inside distance, minus 170. I think Quinlan's knocking him out. I'm going Josh Quinlan by KO in this fight. I do think he can catch Fugitt. I feel like Fugitt's there to be hit too much, and it kind of falls into the style of Quinlan where he can land some big hooks on the inside. So give me the side of Josh Quinlan via KO to start the main card off. Next fight on the card, we have Almabaev versus Jose Johnson. I'm going with Almabaev, though I'll tell you I like Jose Johnson a lot. I just think Almabaev's wrestling is going to be such a major factor here. I don't like the fact that Jose Johnson, as tall as he is so willing to close distance and grapple. He's so willing to tie up. It's not like he's throwing stinging jabs from the outside, kickboxing from range, and also is known for quality grappling skills. A lot of the time, he likes to fight like somebody 5 inches shorter than himself. Almabaev is short as hell. 5'4". He gives up a lot of height, 6 inches. He gives up a lot of reach too. 5.5 inches in reach. No, 6.5 inches in reach. Holy shit. And he's given up 8 inches in height. My God. Massive height difference. I'll tell you this. When they tie up, it don't matter how tall. Almabaev's going to land takedowns. I will say this, though. Jose Johnson, he's got decent jiu-jitsu. I can see him being pretty resilient on the ground, though he got tapped by Damon Blackshear. Blackshear's pretty fucking good. I'm going to say Almabaev wins. I'm not crazy confident in the submission prediction, though I did officially call that. I definitely think Jose Johnson is tough enough where he could survive some bad spots and make this a bit of a scrap, and then Almabaev gets it on the scorecards. Now, as far as the scales, let's see. How did the 6-foot flyweight Jose Johnson look? He looked freaky. He looked freaky as hell. But, like, somehow Jose Johnson still's got muscle on him at 125. I don't understand Jose Johnson's build. It doesn't make any sense to me. He should look like a fucking straw or rail. He should be twig thin, but he's actually got some visible muscle tone. Very weird. Jose Johnson's a freak, man. Almabaev looks pretty jacked up. And then there's the face-off. Massive height difference between the two. When they tie up, the height don't really matter. And I think it leads to Almabaev having a shot at getting under him a little easier. I will say, though, in the clinch, those trips are going to be hard for Almabaev. But I do think he can still nail some just with pure technical abilities in the wrestling. I'm going Almabaev to win. But I will say, seeing how good Johnson looked on the scale and knowing he's pretty resilient in the grappling, I could see Almabaev being tested a bit here and Johnson ending up surviving till the end and Almabaev getting him on the cards. Minus 500 for Asu Almabaev with Jose Johnson as a plus 375 underdog. Give me Almabaev to win as a 5-1 favorite. I'm not reaching for the dog here, but I will say if you're picking Jose Johnson, you like his side, I respect it because you look at some intangibles. Johnson has a fuckload of fight experience. He's got a crazy height and reach advantage, and he's not bad on the ground. So I understand the mentality of attacking the dog side. I just really believe Almabaev's wrestling is such a major factor. Over 1.5 is very likely at minus 205. This is not really an easily money lineable fight. Prop betting, the Almabaev plus 190 decision is live. Almabaev to win via sub is minus 105. Maybe you go plus money side and go value on decision and just have some faith in Johnson's grappling defense because, you know, he's been submitted before, though. That's just what worries me, right? And Almabaev is tricky. I know he's, but Vergara survived. So what, though? It's Vergara. Vergara's a different style. I'm going Asu Almabaev. He probably gets a sub, but I wouldn't want to throw the house on. I think decision's live too. Sub or decision would be the A-tier prop. I'm going Almabaev to win as a disgusting favorite. Let's keep running. Next fight on the card, we have Garrett Armfield versus Brady Hiestand. I'm going Garrett Armfield to win. Called him the close money lock here. I mean, the odds are really not wide. We'll peek them in a second. I think Armfield has a boxing advantage in this fight, an athleticism advantage, a power advantage, and also, though Brady Hiestand might have a tad bit more offensive wrestling, Armfield has very good get-ups, man. He's active from the bottom, and he's blasting up to his feet, and he also seems to be in the best physical condition of his life. I think Garrett Armfield's going to do more damage in this fight. Brady Hiestand's a pretty tough dude, though, and I think he can survive the distance here in a good scrap. I'm going to pick officially Garrett Armfield to win the fight by decision. Hiestand's going to try to wrestle him early. He might land some takedowns, but as this fight goes on, I think Armfield's gas tank might be a little bit superior, and then later in the fight, Armfield gets on top of Hiestand and starts dropping some bombs. I think Armfield by decision is the money call in this fight. It's my official prediction, and I'm riding with Team Armfield to win. It makes a lot of sense to me, him getting it done over Brady Hiestand. Now, as far as the scales, let's check them out. Let's see how these guys are looking. There is Garrett Armfield on the scale. He looks in great shape. He's training with Miles Johns. He's seeming like he's leveling up. Brady Hiestand, he's in great shape. He seems like he's fucking grown up in front of our eyes. What the fuck happened to the young Brady Hiestand? He became Brady chatted up Hiestand. Looks like his testosterone levels fucking tripled. He looks jacked. All right, Brady Hiestand, I see you. And he looks big too. What the fuck, man? Armfield is the lock call, and now Brady Hiestand somehow is looking like a menace to society. I'm not losing faith, though. I think Garrett Armfield wins the decision. And I know they caught him with his eyes blinking. That's good luck, bro. That's good luck. I'm telling you. I think Garrett Armfield, decision win and a good scrap with Brady Hiestand is going to end up being the result here. I like Armfield's skill set. I think Hiestand's got a ton of potential, too. Armfield being 2 years older, having fought some better guys. 2 or 3 losses for Armfield are David Onama. Minus 190 Armfield. Hiestand plus 165. Becomes more of a parlay lock, though, just because ultimately it's skewed towards that minus 200 range. Now, the fight to go over 2.5 is quite likely at minus 170, with Armfield winning a decision at plus 185 is the official method of victory prediction here. I'm going Garrett Armfield. Even though Hiestand's looking good and I believe he's getting better, I have my reservations, man. He's still a young guy. He still lost to Ricky Tercios in a close decision. Last fight, he was getting beat up by Batragorl Dana, and he came back and won. I think Garrett Armfield does a lot of damage here. Armfield, you know what? He might show out and end up getting a damn KO. He definitely could, because Garrett Armfield's pretty fucking good. I'm picking him to get it done. Garrett Armfield for the win over Brady Hiestand. This week's lock, Armfield for the W. Let's keep running up the card. Next fight on the card, we have our featured bout of the night. We have Lucas Almeida versus Timothy Cuamba. I've been picking the side of Timothy Cuamba to win. I think Timmy's going to pull through. Timmy Twilight for the win. I think he's sending Almeida to the Twilight Zone. He's going to KO him. Cuamba's got fast hands. He's got good technical striking, a well-rounded game. Lucas Almeida is a little bit of a one-trick pony. He has some punching power, upright kickboxing, Muay Thai style, hittable for sure, and isn't very great at grappling. Great, I'm saying because I'm trying to be respectful. He's really not good at grappling. I think Cuamba could time takedowns potentially in this fight. He's definitely the slicker striker. I mean, if you look at Lucas Almeida's UFC win, his only UFC win, Mike Trizano dropped him badly in that fight, and he had, ultimately the comeback knockout. But still, Almeida's getting cracked with big shots. Philly just slept him bad. He's 33 years old, and I feel like this is a harsh reality, but Lucas Almeida hasn't gotten any bit better since the damn Daniel Zellhuber fight on Contender Series years ago. There's no evolution. I have seen zero improvement. I think maybe even regression. I'm going Cuamba by KO. I think he's going to have a great performance. And I'm going to even say he has a bit of a breakout performance in this fight here. Let's look at the scales. Let's see how they look. Cuamba gave Balagioki hell on very short notice. Look at Lucas Almeida. Does he not look like a great value Renato Moicano, or is this my imagination? He's really not in the most physical condition ever. I know you say, but he looks lean-ish. I don't know, man. Something about him is off. I just see him getting destroyed. Timothy Cuamba is a very confident pick on the card. I really think Cuamba is going to show out. That Balagioki fight was super impressive on short notice. See, Almeida's a little taller. He's getting cracked, man. Cuamba's going to catch him. Cuamba's putting him to bed. We're going Timmy Cuamba via KO in this fight here. He's a minus 200 favorite with Almeida at plus 165 as the dog. Let's look at some of the prop lines available here. Timothy Cuamba to win inside of the distance is plus 130. I like that. Cuamba to win via KO is plus 165. I also think that's quite live. The chin of Almeida has a question mark around it. The grappling skills have question marks around them. Timmy Cuamba should be able to win. And even if Almeida's chin holds up, Cuamba's a guy that can grind out a hard-fought decision too. He's ready for a hard 3 rounds. He came in on short notice against Oki upperweight class and gave him trouble. Fight before that was a week before, and he beat Michael Stack. Beat Vogel on the damn Dana White's Contender Series, but didn't get signed. He's proven his UFC caliber. And even if he doesn't finish Almeida, so if you are betting props, don't throw all your eggs in one basket. Cuamba to win, quality money line, quality potential parlay piece, which we'll talk about soon. I'm going Cuamba confidently over Lucas Almeida. Let's keep running. Let's get to our new co-main event of the evening. It's Miles Johns versus Douglas Silva de Andrade. I am picking Miles Johns to beat Douglas Silva de Andrade. Johns is on a nice 3-fight win streak. I guess one of them a no contest, but the drug testing rules have changed since then. So essentially, it's a win. He's really finding his footing inside of the UFC, and I think Douglas Silva de Andrade is slowed down a little. He had a really bad 3rd round a year ago against Cody Stammen. That was his last fight. Miles Johns is surging up. I think Miles Johns could hurt Douglas Silva de Andrade. I think the wrestling defense for Johns will be there if Douglas Silva de Andrade tries to tie up with him. Though I think Douglas Silva de Andrade moves pretty well. I don't think it's an easy fight for Miles Johns. I can see him hurting Andrade, but overall, he's going to have to work fucking hard for this win. I still have faith that he'll pull through. I think the younger man, the dude on the come up, the contender to keep an eye on, Miles Johns, gets his signature win when he beats Douglas Silva de Andrade in an absolute banger over the course of 3 rounds. I'm going Miles Johns for a decision in a very hard fight over Douglas Silva de Andrade is the official pick. Now, as far as the scales, how does the 38-year-old Douglas Silva de Andrade look? We'll find out in a second, but Miles Johns is jacked. Miles Johns is jacked. He looks stacked with muscle. He's wide as a fucking house. Douglas Silva de Andrade. Am I being an asshole or do you see it? Something looks a little different. He's sucked in a little more. He's almost 39 in this game, man. It's not that he's old, but he's aging. And this is bantamweight. He looks very sucked in here. Look at the side of his cheek. The weight cut. Look at the side of his cheek there. Look at the side of his cheek. You can't see my pointer here, but look at the side of his cheek right here. Very sucked in. I think Johns could hurt him, man. I think there is a possibility that Miles Johns catches Douglas Silva de Andrade and drops him. I don't know about knocking him out, but he could because Miles Johns got power. Miles Johns for the win. I believe in him, bro. Minus 142. It's a close money line. Andrade plus 122. If you're betting Johns, the money line is probably the A side. It's a little bit more valuable earlier in the week in the minus 120 range. It's spread a little bit wider. Some actions come in on Johns here. Looking at over 2.5 is minus 205. It's live, but Andrade's almost 39 and Johns hits really fucking hard. So it's a possibility a big shot could land. Johns by KO plus 500. Johns by decision plus 150. Prop betting is not the A tier side. I think Miles Johns down the money line or potentially Miles Johns is a signature piece in a value parlay is a good call. And I got one that I've already concocted for you guys, which we'll talk about at the end here. So Miles Johns to win the co-main event in a big spot here. With the Ikram Aliascaro fight getting canceled, Johns and Andrade is now the co-main event of the evening. Gotta love it. I'm going with Miles Johns to win. I think he can finally shine in this fight, and I really do think he's entered his prime, and this is going to be the best form we've ever seen out of Miles Johns. So give me Miles Johns for the win over Douglas Silva de Andrade in our new co-main event. Let's jump to our main event of the evening. If you guys haven't yet, make sure you smash that like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. Alex Perez versus Tatsuro Taira. Give me Tatsuro Taira to pull through. I think he can find it on Perez. Some things I like about Taira, his boxing skills have shown improvement. He's got a nasty straight shot, which I think could sting Alex Perez, and his jiu-jitsu is exceptional. His technical jiu-jitsu and his slickness is superior to Muhammad Mokaev, though he doesn't have the same caliber of wrestling that Mokaev did. And obviously Mokaev had some trouble with Perez because Perez is a savage. But we've seen Perez subbed before by guys with some solid jits. Taira's got some good skills, man. On the ground, he's incredibly slick and nasty. I do think Perez could give him trouble with the low kicks and the takedown defense. Ultimately, this is going to be a really interesting fight. We're going to find out the level of Tatsuro Taira. I'm picking him to pull through. I'm picking Taira to find the sub on the ground. I think you could sting Perez with a straight shot, potentially lock up something. I know a lot of people are riding really high on Alex Perez's Matthias Nicolau knockout, and I understand why, but can I say something honest? Matthias Nicolau is a glass chin. Matthias Nicolau is chinny chin chinny. He's got the glass slipper jaw, like James the Colossus Thompson back in the day. He's got Cinderella's slipper in his chin. So though Alex Perez hits hard, he's not going to flatline Taira with that same punch. Most flyweights would have eaten that shot, just to be fair. You could say I'm a hater, but it's the reality. Tatsuro Taira for the W. And I think he's live to pull off a submission too. Now, let's look at the scales and let's see how these main event savages are looking. There is Taira. Again, he got the Carli Judice arms, kind of string beanie, but good for locking up next, though. Good for getting submissions, not so good for a front double bicep pose. Then we got Alex Perez in good shape, ready to go. Honestly, he's like reverse aged. I don't know what happened to him. He's looking better and better every time we see him, for fuck's sake. Then he comes in with the shirt for the face-off. I personally am not on the money line of Taira. I think it's a risky bet because he's unproven, but I am on the pick side of Taira. Alex Perez, though, is a savage coming into this fight. I think Taira can pull through. I do. The pick is Taira. I think he wins in a hard fight over Alex Perez. I think he could hurt him with straights. I think he could potentially lock up a sub. He is a wide favorite, though. Minus 206. That's wide, man. Plus 176 for Perez. I don't think he should be this big of a favorite. And that's just the honest truth here. I think it's more of a minus 150 line at most. He's unproven against the upper echelon of guys. I mean, what? Carlos Hernandez win, and now you're this big of a favorite against Perez? Though the skill set looks exceptional, we have not seen it against the best caliber of guys. And that's where the hesitancy lies for me as far as telling you, yeah, the money line of Taira, especially at this line, not feeling it personally. Over 2.5 minus 145. I mean, maybe, but it could be risky because Taira's jits is very nasty. We have seen Perez caught in submissions. Regardless of them being against some of the best guys in the world, Taira has exceptional jiu-jitsu that's, I think, potentially championship caliber. With time, at the very least. He's still very young. Taira to win by sub is only plus 120, but him winning by decision is upwards of plus 475. That'd be crazy. We go all rounds. I mean, it wouldn't be that crazy. Taira could survive a full 5 and win here. I don't think Taira's going to get gassed out and beaten up. I think Tatsuro Taira's actually got the goods. I think he's beaten Alex Perez, pulling off the biggest win of his life. I think he's live to win by submission. If they go the full 5, I think he's ready to win a decision. I do think he can strike up Perez from the outside and sting him. When they hit the floor, there's a big jiu-jitsu advantage for Taira. Ultimately, yes, the offensive wrestling for Taira. He might run into some difficulty with Perez's hips because he's got good defense. But if they tie up, go to the clinch, I could see him climb in the back. There's different trips he could potentially land. I think Tatsuro Taira is that guy. And I'm picking him to win here against Alex Perez in the biggest fight of his life at UFC Vegas 93. Those are the predictions, but I'm not done yet. I do want to talk about the post-weigh-in parlays to play for this card. So I said, okay, following the weigh-ins, what is to be done? Obviously, we've lost a lot of fights, so some parlays have unfortunately shit the bed. Nate Maness is as close as you can get to a true lock that exists in reality at minus 500. With Cuamba, that brings you to minus 120. I think this is an exceptionally live one, but I understand you want more. Saragih, plus 135. I think this one could be pretty live for a little close money thunder. At the end of the day, you're looking to hit or are you just looking for value? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Now, of course, you could potentially play something like Saragih to win via knockout, which is minus 175, and you can pair that up with Nate Maness to also win by a knockout as far as like a confident call that has potential with parlays, but for only plus 132 and then one of them wins a decision, probably not Nate Maness, but I don't know. Maybe Saragih fumbles. I don't think Saragih's as good as Nate Maness skill for skill. I like Maness. I like the side of Garrett Armfield, and I like Cuamba here. Obviously, you guys know I like Miles Johns. That's plus 390. If you wanted to go with the teammates, you wanted to go with Miles Johns and Garrett Armfield because they're training together leading up to this fight, you could do a teammate parlay at plus 168 for both of them to take it home. I think it's live. Now, if you're looking for something that would be considered a safety call, but there are still reservations about Almabaev, Nate Maness, Timmy Cuamba, plus 116. I feel pretty good about all three of them coming through and getting wins. Now, Garrett Armfield also is a confident pick here. He's the lock. But from the most confident pick section, those are the money calls, I believe. And then Armfield here at minus 180 brings you to plus 236. So you're not getting huge plus money, but I mean, the value is live. If you added in Miles Johns plus 272, then you also added in Armfield plus 479. You said, fuck it, I want Saragih plus 644. And if you said, you know what, I live on the fucking edge, give me Nuerdanbieke plus 1909. And then if you're like, fuck it, I think Gabriel Fernandes overrated, boom, plus 4,721. But you're a maniac going this way, putting the women's fight in to hold your whole night down. At least with this one, you start with Nuerdanbieke early. And if it goes sideways, you got the whole card to make something new. For value, Josh Quinlan, even though I think he's a coin flip fight, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a fucking what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you're playing an 8-leg parlay, you're looking for value in coin flips anyways. That's plus 3,583 for that one. If you don't want Nuerdanbieke in your lineup, but you still like some of the things I'm calling out, plus 1,264. That's a decent little call. I think all of them win. But granted, all favorites always makes me want to shit my pants. 2 to 3 fighter parlays are just better. Like, okay, you're like, fuck it, dude. I want confidence, but I also want a little bit of value. Let me concoct a little something, something to close it out. So I do think Miles Johns gets a hard-fought win here. minus 138. I also think the Knutsson fight is very live to go over rounds at minus 400. And then I also think Nate Maness is essentially a lock to finish here. I'm calling Nate Maness by KO, but if he somehow locked up a fucking neck, I'm going to cry. So I'm going to put Maness inside distance. You got plus 194. Miles Johns, the over in the ladies fight. And this here with Maness by inside distance. I mean, got a good feeling. Then if you're like, all right, I'll add in Almabaev. Brings me to plus money. Like, fuck it, I like Cuamba. Now we got something good. And obviously, you can just throw Maness down the money line. But I just wanted to add in an over to give you more steam and a little more heat to play with. And if you like Hiestand, who's a risky guy to bet in a parlay, but could pull through, and then I'll bring you a ton of value, plus 1327. If you want to try to chase the fucking bag, you go Quinlan by KO. Now you got plus 1370. Now we're getting degen as fuck, though. Ultimately, there's high confidence calls on this card that are decent parlay pieces. Unfortunately, truth to be told about this card is there's a lot of chalky favorites that I think are going to end up winning, with a couple of underdogs sprinkled in and a couple close money lines as well. So bet it intelligently, bet your parlay smart. Go with what I'm saying, but if you got a different lean in your gut, don't just blindly tell. If you're throwing money down, do your own research too, because at the end of the day, it's your money, and I want you to be smart with it. Those are my thoughts on the card. I appreciate you all for tuning in to this week's weigh-in recap show. Smash the like button if you haven't, and if you're new, subscribe. Definitely let me know what you thought of the picks in the comments down below. I want to hear what my people are saying. I appreciate you all for supporting me, and I will see you all for the Fight Companion. W's in the comments if you got nothing to say as well. See you all in the next one. Peace out.